So I got a new lens. Remember earlier this year when I said, be very careful and considerate about the camera gear you buy this year? Buy only what you need to survive, I said. So what lens did I buy, and do I really need it? Stay tuned to find out. Roll that intro. I don't have an intro. So this is the Sony FE 35mm 1.8 made by Sony for the Sony E-Mount. So that's what it is. Let's answer the second question. Do I really need it? No. I guess the best thing you can say about a piece of camera gear is that it encourages you to use it, or you want to use it, it's fun, you're pleased with the results, feels good, it's easy, all those things. It's been a while since I bought a camera thing that I've just really generally enjoyed. So what makes the Sony FE 35mm f1.8, that's the last time I'm saying that, an enjoyable camera thing? Some of these FE lenses are a bit too small, but the 35mm strikes the right balance of compactness, lightweightness, balancing well with the camera body while not being too small. So I pretty much bought this lens just because I wanted it. It's the only native Sony lens I have. I used to have the 28mm f2, but I sold it after I got the Canon 16-35 f2.8. It seemed a bit redundant. So what about this? This is also covered by the 16-35. I just kind of wanted to get a native E-Mount lens, and most of the really good ones are fucking expensive. G-Master, Batis, etc. So I wanted to get one that wasn't going to be so expensive, but the options are kind of limited in that regard. There are more third-party lenses, I guess, but the 50mm seems not to be the greatest lens, and 85mm has got a lot of fans, but honestly, I'm just not a huge 85mm fan. It would have extended my range, but I just don't think I would use it anywhere near as much as a 35mm. I've talked a lot about the utility of zoom lenses versus prime lenses for small creators. Not small in stature, just small in influence, power, budget, you know, those types of things. I believe that zooms are way more versatile and economical. On the other hand, primes are usually better in absolute image quality, and they're faster. Furthermore, I believe that primes force you to be more thoughtful about your shots, your framing, and your positioning. For those reasons, I bought this prime and would absolutely recommend that you buy some primes if you can. But still, no. My cat's gonna do something stupid here in a second. No! Don't do it. You can't jump on that, goofball. But still, totally go for quality zooms as a business consideration. Anyway, let's start talking about the lens itself. This is not going to be an overly technical review or anything of the lens, no charts, nothing like that. Just my impressions and observations after using it for a few weeks. So let's talk about price, features, and build quality. MSRP is $748 US. Not exactly cheap, but I got mine used for about $100 off that price. It's a pretty bare bones lens. It's got a manual focus autofocus switch, a programmable focus hold button that I currently have programmed to autofocus mode select. The focus ring is metal with this tight indentation pattern. It's grippy enough, and although I prefer a rubber ring or a geared ring, I can't say that this one doesn't work just fine. I guess my biggest complaint with it is just how much dust and particulate matter clings or gets stuck in those little grooves. The focus ring has no distance markings. It's a focus-by-wire lens, but more on that later. It has a nice amount of friction, and of course, it just rotates continuously with no stops. It's pretty metal, with a kind of thin metal and plastic mount and no visible weather sealing, although Sony says that it's internally weather sealed in 7 spots, although they don't guarantee that it's dust and moisture proof. It's super light at only 9.9 ounces or 281 grams. You shake the lens or turn it upside down, back and forth, you can hear it shifting around inside there, which worried me at first. I don't remember the 28mm doing that, but I've since confirmed that this is normal for how this lens works, and once you power the camera on, the shaking goes away. It has a 9-bladed circular aperture designed and an aspherical lens element which helps with corner sharpness. It's about the perfect size for full-frame Alpha Series bodies, without a cage anyway, and would be a good fit for APS-C as well, where the 35mm would be just about a 50mm and an f2.7 as opposed to 1.8. So honestly, though I ostensibly bought this for video, I barely shot any video with it. I've shot photos with it just about every day. I just really enjoy using it. Not a huge fan of Sony Alpha bodies, they're just a bit too small to be really comfortable. But on the plus side, their compactness means there's no hassle in always having it with you. So back to the focal length, I'm just a huge fan of 35mm. It just looks natural. Not a lot of distortion, everything's about the right size, the right distance. It's very faithful to the eye. I've always been big into like cinema verite, documentaries, street photography, those kinds of things. And 35mm really captures the feeling of being there, whether that's as a fly on the wall or an active participant in what's going on. With the 1.8 max aperture, you can get good subject isolation if you want. If you get close enough, you can absolutely obliterate backgrounds into a creamy blur of color. It's sharp enough, there's a good bit of vignetting that never really clears up. and there's some chromatic aberration. It's not the worst I've seen. Distortion is pretty minimal, and it's actually like a pincushion distortion as opposed to like a barrel distortion, so I think that's better in terms of shooting people, in terms of their features being more flattering. Unfortunately, I can't talk too much about autofocus performance as I don't have a state-of-the-art autofocusing camera. I primarily use autofocus single and done focus and recompose. I don't find continuous autofocus on this camera to be good at all. So with that said, the AFS is pretty quick and reliable, and any misfires I am more apt to attribute to the camera rather than the lens. So for video, even though it's focused by wire, Sony must have done some software wizardry because the response is pretty linear, meaning it behaves more like a traditional mechanical lens rather than an electronic one. So when you spin the ring fast, it moves through the plane fast. When you move it slow, it moves slow. This is a good thing. Check out videos where I've talked about focus by wire on the Lumix G-Vario 12-35 to see how it can all go so wrong. Additionally, and probably the biggest selling feature for me with this lens is no focus breathing. This is a major. Having a full frame lens that doesn't focus breathe is such a huge bonus for video shooters. The last point worth mentioning is the close focusing distance, which is 8.76 inches or 22 centimeters, which makes this lens an even better monster because you can get so close to a subject. So to reiterate, I've been enjoying the crap out of this lens. Even though it wasn't the wisest purchase in terms of my video production business, it was more of a hobbyist, enthusiast purchase, and it's really rekindled my relationship with the A7S II, so much so that I've been plotting how to get rid of it for an A7 III. Don't tell my A7S II I said that. To be fair, I did have a bit of a business rationale. I'm thinking along the lines of future camera upgrades and thinking that Sony might be the way I go, whether it's the A7S III, if and when that ever comes out, or maybe even the FX9. I just got to start saving. Sony does have the most established lens lineup by far for mirrorless cameras, so if you're thinking about full-frame mirrorless, the lens lineup is a major consideration. Although to be fair, Canon and Nikon do have their legacy SLR lenses available with an adapter. So there's never 100% clear-cut choice. So anyway, I guess that's about it for this. Thanks for watching. Hit me up in the comments if you've got comments or questions or suggestions or whatever. So stay safe out there and see you in the next video.